Bueno, vamos a arrancar.
So let's get started. Welcome the brave people that stayed until late. I'm Laura Kaplan. I'm of the staff of LACNIC, and with me now is Guillermo Sicilio. Together we're going to start this session that is called the academia, the technical community, and the industry in the region, synergies, challenges and opportunities. We are going to have two blocks, so to speak. We're going to have a first part where there's going to be a group that is going to give lightning talks, and they are going to discuss different possibilities for cooperating in some of the things that they are working at. Then we'll see challenges, needs, and specific issues of different stakeholders. And before we start and introducing the lightning talk speakers, we'd like to give a brief introduction, a presentation as an introduction to provide you the context of this so that we may tell you what we're doing with LACNIC here. So our R&D for users applied in the technical community and industry. The objective of this session is to establish spaces where we may have this dialogue between the academia, the industry, and the technical community. We want to understand the context of the different initiatives and to try to see the perspective from which they are seen so that we can complement, for instance, from the academia to if they are conducting research in something, then maybe we can complement the needs of the technical community, and also to disseminate knowledge, because it's very good to know what content is being developed and get to know the people who are working at that so that you can use. From LACNIC, we've been working for some time in a number of programs and initiatives. We have a program for cooperation with the universities in the region, and we have one with the internet, and we have the R&D working group developing contents. So you may have seen this poster. This is meant to show how we've worked geographically with the different universities and research centers on issues that are relevant for our community. And the work of LACNIC is to find those centers that are working on complementary things that are important for the community, so that we can work together and reach better results, and so that we can collaborate with resources and with various contributions to research. So those are the research is presented at the LACNIC Technical Forum. If you stay here tomorrow, you'll be able to see that. Well, in addition to that, we implement a number of research in the R&D, and our research is strongly aimed at the pillars of the DNS and the BGP, the pillars of the internet, and interconnection between autonomous systems. So we have some sites where we measure routing, DNS, IPv6, and also we have a sort of a map of the internet in each country where we take note of some parameters of each country so as to have a global report of each country in the region. And just to mention some of the studies that we've done in the R&D side of LACNIC, there you have most studies. Most of them were published in the 3 languages, not the last one, but most studies are both in Spanish and English and Portuguese, and there are many more. But for instance, the last one is incident analysis and routing in the region, analysis of the paths of traffic in each country and in the region, interconnection BGP in the region in Latin America and the Caribbean, interconnections in the countries or within each country. And in Latin America and the Caribbean, and the use of DNS over TLS and the type of studies. So they are led by LACNIC, but sometimes we do it together with other people that help us. Okay. And now let's invite our lightning talk speakers. The idea is that we'll call you all. You'll stay here. You'll sit here, and when we call you, Carmen Denis, Internet Exchange Service, Yucatan, Mexico. Come here. Carmen Cristina Meyers of Montevideo University in Uruguay. Ernesto Sanchez of the Catholic University of Salta, Argentina. Hernan Arcidiacono from Argentina. And Arturo Pérez Díaz of the Monterrey Technological Institute in Mexico. Please. So we're going to start with Carmen Denis.
Hola, sí, ya quedó.
So again, I want to thank all the brave people that stayed so late. I'm going to start by sharing some of the things that happen in my environment. I live in the southeast of Mexico. I'm in an IXP, but I also work with my academic community, with the industry. We call them the companies in Mexico. And so with the industry, with the academia, and even with government, and with more organizations. And I think that the reality that I'm about to describe is not so different in your countries or even within my own country, because in Mexico we are quite scattered and we are divided by regions. And let me start with 3 different realities from the same reality of the young talents. I'm going to talk about the talents. That will be my approach today. So what is the reality of the young people, the undergraduates or those that have just graduated? I work with young people because I work in a project training talents, and it was precisely during the pandemic that more people, that I suffered more, because many young people lost their jobs and there were empty positions, because sometimes the companies request talent, and it's so sad to see the resumes of people that just were graduated, but they haven't had any experience, though they came with empty resumes and with a huge hunger to learn, with a wonderful attitude, but a lot of uncertainty when they are going to start a job, either as undergraduate or a graduate. They have no contact networks, and they are very isolated. Now, from the point of view of industry, I've been in different tables with the academia and industry, listening to what is being demanded, and they demand specialized human resources. English is always mentioned, but especially what companies demand the most, and this is a line, and this is one of the challenges that I will share with you, is the hard skills, or in addition to hard skills, they look for softer skills, either attitude, analytical thinking, flexibility, motivation, and the famous glaring auto knowledge, initiative, curiosity. That is what the companies are really looking for. And sometimes when I had to interview young talents, they lack those soft skills and many more. And this is precisely what the academia is facing. Academia is going through an accelerated change in this virtual environment. They don't have the time to update their curriculum, their bachelor's degrees. They have obsolete infrastructure. They have faculties that are well trained but not updated because they don't know what the industry is demanding, because they are more theoretical. And they do have programs of initiatives with companies, but they are still isolated. So what has happened in our surroundings? Well, we decided to start at home. What did we do? Well, around this ecosystem that develops as a pillar around an IXP, we develop an ecosystem. We need to identify the requirements of our direct peers, but also to look for partnerships to relate. So one of the axes of the IXPs is three. One is to generate partnerships, to generate communities, and then capacity building, and the other is training talent. So I'm trying to describe how that training will end up in one of the members of the IXPs or in some of the organizations that we know. What have we done? There's a training program that is called the ITSE Fellows. This is the 4th edition, and we call on universities. We relate with the National Academy, and we summon the universities, not just in Yucatan, but the 3 states in the peninsula of Yucatan, and we even rural universities in rural areas, and we train them into access depending on what the industry is demanding and the global environment is requesting. Our members are IXPs, and they need talent to configure and to receive autonomous systems, how to configure them, good practices, and likewise, we have the line of cybersecurity. So they go through an immersion period. It's like 20 fellows that are registered and that are working remotely. So we explain what the internet ecosystem is. They can spend 2 or 3 years. And the good thing is that they start with their awareness program. We have several internal projects, but the most important thing is that we put them in touch with residencies or social service in the company. So what are the inputs that those ITSE fellows use? We know that they'll end up with a member of the IXP, and even at our IXP, we have human resources that were trained, but use the MILACNIC and the Internet Society resources. We integrate them to measuring projects, and we have partnerships with companies that measure internet parameters. So this is like a brief explanation of initiatives that we have and that create relationships with organizations, especially like NIC. That is a very good idea of creating this of the IXP and the operators. It's good for them to get in touch, and so that the young people can get trained. Now let's give the floor to Cristina of the University of Montevideo, Uruguay.
Good afternoon. This is very interesting. In Uruguay, the reality is that there has been an increased interest in the technological careers in recent years. I'm in charge of coordinating the IT career at the University of Montevideo, also work at the public university. We have realized that there has been a significant growth in the number of students in recent years, particularly in the technological careers. This is good because there is a demand, but this also poses a challenge because we have to bring together what we offer. We have to adapt it, as she just explained, to the needs of the organizations, and this should also be an opportunity for growth. The University of Montevideo has part of its curriculum working together with companies. We promote joint projects. Companies bring a problem, pose a problem, just not design my website or design an app. That is sort of more off the shelf type of work, but they also pose engineering problems. So what we do is to try to set up research groups in response to those questions. In addition to that, we have research lines. These research lines are channeled through what we call the master's degree in applied engineering. This is like an umbrella term for all types of different topics. And in this master's program, we have a couple of projects. One of my students, the master's degree student, is here in the audience, and we're working on BGP protocols. This is something that I began during my PhD studies. We work with a telecom provider we have in Uruguay, who also have a transit network. And we continue studying and expanding. I think there is a lot of work to do to have a more reliable and robust internet, and more secure internet as well. And we also have opportunities in that field so that these students can continue developing in those fields. From what I saw in the talks this morning, there are very interesting ideas out there that have to do with proposals to develop things in the best way possible so that we can have a service that is adequate in response to the needs. Also thinking about less population who live in less favorable conditions regarding controls. They receive more than developed technologies. So we have to review what is happening in this part of the world. We have the capacity to develop things, not just take what others have developed in other parts, but also how we can develop and improve things ourselves. Great. Thank you very much, Cristina. I think how this related to what Carmen was saying, what you were saying regarding training students who have the academic knowledge but facing them with real case scenarios will help them when they embark on their professional work. I'll now give the floor to Nestor Sanchez from the Catholic University of Salta. Thank you very much. Ernesto Sanchez. Thank you very much for joining us today. And in line with what the professor was saying, I come from a province which is Salta in the north of Argentina, 1,600 kilometers away from Buenos Aires. I deal with research, and I am a faculty member at the University of Salta, and I was always focused on the Catholic University of Salta and the National University of Salta. I always took part in research projects. Already enjoyed that type of work. Now, considering what the reality is of learning in the field of computing, teaching networks based on simulation tools and also based on real life devices. The reality at universities is that it's quite expensive to purchase the equipment. And then, in view of the potential of the new tools that we have, that you can even use to virtualize networks and have real OSs, we identified the need and we realized that in response to the requirements of the internet community, we decided to focus on IPv6, and specifically on security. I recall a LACNIC document of 2015 that stated which were the relevant aspects for which universities and the academic networks have a responsibility on. This is to inform, to disseminate, and also internal capacity building. This is of utmost importance to bring together the different sides, the different parties, so not only in the academic world, but also with the industry. Now, going on with this point on IPv6, and curiously enough, we were speaking about this during one of the webinars of LACNIC, and now I work with Henry Alves. We identified the same need of approaching this topic. So since that time, which was in November 2023, we haven't stopped growing in this field of research. And to close, what we aim at is to have these tools that allow us to virtualize networks and to make these available to the industry so that in controlled conditions we can run tests on security issues, on configuration. And curiously enough, I was at the ABRINT meeting and I spoke with vendors, and they were strongly interested in this. So this clearly is evidence that there is a need on one hand, and also on the side of the academia, in the sense that research does not end up being just a report on a research project or just to publish it in a scientific journal. This should rather be communicated to the internet community, to the ISPs, to the vendors. And I welcome the fact that LACNIC encourages this and promotes this, because this is how those of us who are from the academia perceive that what we can really contribute with things for the development of this field. So if you have an application, there you have the challenge. How can you really land all this that we studied and researched, and this could serve as a contribution? Thank you, Ernesto. The topic of IPv6 is of key importance for the continuity of the stable operations of IPv6. IPv6 is very important, and students and the universities should train students in this field, because these are the ones who will be likely to work with the operators. They will be working in these fields, so that is very important. Very often they look at IPv6, but they don't see this in practice. But if they are researching and conducting labs on that and configuring, well, they are better trained to face the other cases. Hernan Arcidiacono from NSS Argentina, you have the floor. Many of you, or some of you, have met me already because of my relation to the IXP was, but I'm not wearing that hat right now, because in fact I think that the industry or this community is strongly linked to the academia. We have seen this over the past 3 days of this event. I would like to express my opinion from another standpoint. I work in the telecom industry and the CTO of NSS. This is the company I work for. The name is iPlan. We are an operator that is in Argentina. We are a medium-sized operator, and I highlight these 2 points because quite obviously this contaminates my standpoint in this regard. I'd like to express my opinion. Normally, I try to see the positive side, but I'm going to now view the not so positive side, because when we wish to improve something, we really have to be very critical of the situation and also quite objectively. Now, the first thing that I would like to say is that the telecom industry, and once again, and I am aware what the situation is in Argentina, the only connection I see there is with the academia is in training professionals. And in fact, and compared to what you were saying, Carmen, I think we do have quite a good training professionals. The final product that graduates from university is quite good. It is likely that they might need experience, but I don't see much more beyond that. I'm saying, well, why is that so? Well, in other fields in Argentina, I see that there is a contact with the industry. My son studies aerospatial engineering. You were saying that we receive things, but the telecommunications industry replicates what is happening in the world, so we might not need the academia so far. And I say so far because looking for opportunities, I think that the telecom industry is in a crisis from the standpoint of the business. Many years they have thought of efficiency and sought other sources of income, but I think the turning point is necessary because the consolidation and efficiency processes that are taking place are not sufficient to make this sustainable. Our internet runs on these precisely. So you might have read the transformations of the telco into techco and the T layer, and separating the services companies from the infrastructure companies and so on. Now, from the technological standpoint, we need to sustain all that. And at least in the plans that I develop for the medium and long term, from the 5 or 6 main working lines I have, there are some that I perceive are far too big. Maybe because they're still in the midst of evolving like the major operators out there in the world. So we might have to wait until everything settles so that we can do these. And I perceive that an operator from Argentina, a medium-sized operator, would be at a disadvantage in the medium term. I think we have to speed things up. To a certain extent, this requires more thinking, more people trained on these topics, and others that apply this right now. And sometimes we cannot have those human resources in the organizations. So having looked at the less positive part, I see that there's efforts made by the academia that are considering our concerns. And I think that this is referring to a kind of disruption, speaking about autonomous networks, speaking about digital twins that are now being used to support the autonomous networks. So I think very often this is not at our reach. And I think this could be something that the academia should consider for training and also for cooperation in order to take this to the practical side. So having seen the lesser positive things, I think we can now say that we can fill that half-full glass in an industry that hasn't been too close to the academia, because it could take things and in fact replicate a model from elsewhere, but we won't have time to do so. Thank you, Hernan. That point that you have just mentioned is precisely one of the things we seek to achieve through spaces such as this, namely to find which are the challenges that operators have today, and also how the academia can approach those points and contribute to research and training. So that's precisely one of the points we are aiming at. I now give the floor to Jesus Arturo Pérez Díaz from the Technological Institute, the Higher Institution Studies of Monterrey in Mexico. I'm Jesus Arturo Pérez. I'm a professor of the Tecnológico de Monterrey, the campus Guadalajara. In recent years, I have been trying to research the challenges in the field of cybersecurity with the most prevalent attacks. I think that since the COVID pandemic began, parallel to that, we began with a digital pandemic. There has been an exponential role in the DDoS attacks. I have studied these attacks ever since then, and I specialized in slow rate attacks. These are the most difficult attacks to detect. We have validated, both in software-defined networks as well as in conventional networks, these two types of attacks, both from the standpoint, the two standpoints, the slow and the high rates. We have used machine learning, we have used deep learning to try to figure out which are the AI models that could be ideal for identifying and mitigating a specific attack. Over the years, these DDoS attacks have remained as the most important types of attacks. In 2023, in the CyberSec report of ENISA, we heard that ransomware had become a type of attack number one. So in 2022, once again, it was DDoS. The reason is because the current ransomware stopped being crypto ransomware and has now become exfoliation ransomware, which basically seeks to extract information from the attacked customer, and following that, they are threatened when disclosing that information unless they pay a ransom. Nevertheless, they are attacked with DDoS. So a DDoS remains the prevalent type of attack. There are two other types of things that I have been working on in my research lines. These are the multi-factor authentication, and through a collaboration with applied research we started with LACNIC, we have been researching the use of techniques or hybrid models combining statistics with artificial intelligence in order to detect anomalies in BGP. So we have managed to publish a couple of documents. The models are available in case operators find this useful in order to detect some type of anomalies. We have detected indirect anomalies such as misconfigurations. We have also worked with anomalies generated when there is an outage, and also others generated by worms. We're going to start working now in collaboration with Professor Botello, who will be in the next panel, who would like to work on direct anomalies attacking the BGP protocol. This is one of the latest lines that I will be working on.
However, what I see is that there are many forms of collaboration between the industry and the university, although it is true that here this was mentioned by some colleagues that one of the function roles is to train and to give knowledge to other to generations, but it's also generating knowledge, solving problems, troubleshooting that the academia can do through research with consolidated research groups. And there I see several benefits for you. I think that among the ways of collaboration that I see is, for instance, sharing data, sharing real problems that the operators have, because very often we don't know each other in detail. Sometimes we train models with data generated that don't give us the levels of accuracy when the models are deployed in real time in a network operator. So just by sharing the data, that is already useful in itself. Another ways we can collaborate is by funding. Funding is not to pay more to researchers, but just to fund, for instance, that a postgraduate study may work specifically to solve a problem that the industry has. And in the case of Brazil, I discovered that law gives some fiscal benefits to Brazilian companies if they donate research resources or if they give funds for research to public universities in the country. So there are many challenges that we might try to solve together. So I make myself available. We can build synergies to help you solve your problems. Thank you. That's excellent. Thank you, Arturo. And thank you for giving such realistic information, how the people in industry can approach and contribute. I think that you shed light on many of the things. And now, so I want to thank you especially for having participated and for having shared such a valuable information. And now I invite you to continue to participate in this session, but now at a more public level. So let's give the floor to the panel. I'm going to invite Alessia Succhetti.